So you meet a woman, you like her automatically, just because of the way she looks. She's your type. She's seemingly perfect in the way that you visualize a woman aesthetically. You walk up to her, you get to know her a little bit, um, but you already know deep in your heart, you've already decided this is the one. This is the one I want. All off of looks. Now, men, you know you guys do this all the time. If a woman is pretty, it's like it doesn't really matter who she is as a person. She could curse a lot. She could kind of be a nasty. She could have an attitude, but she'll just go ahead and stick it out. You'll persevere through what you want. You'll persevere. You'll persevere through the problems to get what you want, which is, the yams or inside the pants. So it's like as as soon as you locked eyes on her, you have already decided. Men do this a lot, and I'm here to warn you that this is a really bad idea because if you ignore certain signs about her, you're going to be very hurt in the end. Okay, so don't. First off, do not look at a woman for just her looks. I know this sounds very simple and very cliche, but men do this all the time. It is the focal point of our culture is the woman's looks, her aesthetics. It is what most men follow after on Instagram. It is what most women desire in our world. Is a woman who's beautiful, a woman who's thick, a woman who has curves, physique, whatever. But I understand this. This is a trap. As a man, your looks as a man, a woman's looks can only go so far because ultimately after 20 years she's not even going to look like that anyways. 15, 10 years sometimes. So you got to look for the personality, the virtues, the values, the inside, what you guys have in common, because that is going to be the most beneficial to you. Do not ignore what's right in front of you, and I'm talking about red flags. A lot of times, just because we see a woman as our type, therefore it's like nothing she can do is wrong. We will justify and we will romanticize any of her problems away. We might call it cute, all because of our feelings, our emotions, of how we feel about her, the lust. It will get ahead of you if you let it. So now I'm gonna go through one of my last relationships and how this ended up working against me. This is a woman who I met at my job. She was very, very pretty, very, very, very pretty, at least to me. She was probably one of the most prettiest women I've ever dated. And I started to notice red flags very early on in our relationship, even before we were going out, that I basically ignored because I saw what I want. It was like a level of desperation that I tapped into. I therefore became blind to all of the signals that I should have paid attention to because they ended up being amplified in the future. So one, I'll give you an example. I found out early on that this woman was relatively fake, meaning she acted one way in public, but in reality, she wasn't as nice or as genuine as one would think. Um, Without getting into the details about it, basically, I, after noticing it, kind of disregarded it as just a regular old character flaw that everybody has. Not saying that everyone is perfect, but I kind of rationalized or justified her behavior. But later on, this actually became exactly who she was. She was a person who was very selfish, and she did things with her best interest in mind, even though we were in a relationship, to the point where I was surprised that she would even do that because I thought she was genuine. But remember, that one signal that I disregarded just because of how I was feeling about her, one being because she was so beautiful to me, I ended up getting hurt. It ended up backfiring on me. Another issue, she had a guy best friend. Now, I can make a whole separate video on this topic alone, but just bear with me for the content of the video. A woman with a best friend is a bad idea. A woman with male friends is a bad idea. Okay? And I'll give you an example as to why. She got to have her cake and eat it too. And I'll explain in a second. I noticed she had a best friend and I didn't particularly think much of it, but I had a feeling something was going on between them. Deep down inside, I just felt something was going on. Not saying she liked her or he liked him. I just knew there was something. I couldn't put my hand on it, But later on, I come to find out by his own words in our relationship, he actually had feelings for her and he was pursuing her as I was at the time. But she deaded it at the time because she wanted me. But she never disclosed this to me because she lied. But when I confronted her about it before, early on, she was just like, "Oh, this is nothing. Him and don't have anything." We'll come to find out that off of his own words that that wasn't the case. He was actually trying to pursue her. He was had a crush on her. Blah blah blah. But because I was so into her at the time, physically, it really wasn't anything else. Like she was cool. She had a nice personality, I guess. But in reality, I was just so into her. You see how this can be a distractive thing? Now, a lot of times when we were together, she would sometimes ditch me to go hang out with him. And it would almost seem natural to her. It would be like, oh, well, this is just my best friend. So as a boyfriend, you get to be romantic with me and intimate with me. But on the other hand, you get to be social with him. And you get to be verbal and comforting in his space. So it's like you have two boyfriends, one who has an intimate relationship with you and another one who has a personal comforting relationship with you, as opposed to just having it all on one person. But because I didn't really tell her, hey, look, you need to distance yourself from this dude, not just because he likes you, but just off of principle alone. I know how men are. I know that I just know how men are. So I because I wasn't really thinking with my logical mind, I was more lusting after her. I disregarded it. Here's another big issue. She had mommy issues. And the way that this would manifest in her, to me, was she was very bad at communicating. And I noticed that was a mommy issue because she explained to me how her and her mother didn't really get along. A lot of times there was silence. A lot of times when things ended up happening that was serious, her mother would just shut off and she would just go somewhere. She would ignore everybody. She would disregard everyone. And I noticed that in our relationship, she would do that, especially early on. One thing, once again, that I disregarded. But in the beginning of our relationship, to my benefit, there were times when we were getting serious about our conversations in terms of sharing our feelings and sharing about how what's going on. She would freeze up, and to my benefit, I had said, hey, look, if you're gonna do this, I don't want to have a relationship with somebody like that. So sometimes I would be able to snap her out of it, but I didn't persevere. Or I wasn't persistent with it. So therefore, it ended up hurting me in the end because towards the end of our relationship, where our conversations really reached um, the moments where we could have fixed things, she would just do the same thing. She would, at the time where our conversations got very, very personal and very crossroadsy, I would say, she would just freeze. She just wouldn't talk. When I tried to get answers from her about the important things in our relationship, she would just freeze. So, how did her being fake end up hurting me in the future in our relationship? Well, so without getting even into more details about it, I probably might in the future. Her being fake ended up really, really hurting me in the future. It was basically the end of our relationship. How deceitful she was. It just totally wrecked everything, my heart included. But, I wasn't really thinking with my head most of the time, so I can't really expect anything less. If you see all these red flags or you see these landmines on the floor, if you keep walking knowing what you see and just deciding to disregard it, that's your fault if you get your legs blown off. So, what can you do about this? Whatever part of the relationship is, whether you just met her, whether you're just about to meet her, whether whatever it is, if you find something that is a deal breaker to you, or for you find something that is a red flag, you have to at least distance yourself. Whether you just met her, whether you see her at your job, whether you guys are in a relationship, you have to at least distance yourself. But remember this, do not hang on to her. If it persists or if you find even more problems, do not hang on. Let go. Let go of her. Let go of her. Nextly, you have to believe that you can do better. There is a woman who looks just like her. She's 5'10", she's caramel skin just like her. She's just as thick and she got a nice smile. You can find that same one at the gym. You can find the same one at the Walgreens, at the 7-Eleven. You have to believe that. But if you don't believe that, this is another thing, the third thing, which might be the most important thing. You have to become better. Because if you can become better, then you will deserve better, and you believe that you will deserve better. You becoming better will self-fulfillingly feedback. It will be like a feedback loop. It'll be like a reinforcement to your own confidence to show you that you can do better as you succeed in your goals and becoming a person who you can look in the mirror more often every day, becoming more and more of a person of confidence. You will actually believe that you deserve better because in reality you do. So with that being said, don't oops. With that being said, don't fall for these women's looks, man. All right.